Hello there, world of tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and in today's video, I'll be able to confirm the next tech tree line and tier 10 coming into World of Tanks Blitz. Wargaming has been trying to add light tanks for each nation. And this is something I've been talking about for a while on the channel. We originally started off with the Boss Chatillon 25-ton, made our way to the Sheridan, T100LT, Vickers Light, and WZ-132-1. We have a bunch of lights now, but I always found it very interesting that Wargaming added a Chinese light tank before adding a German light tank, especially when you make your way over to the German tech tree, and we literally have the VK2801, SP1C, and RU251, which literally lead to nowhere. It's like they wanted to add a light tank branch, but then just gave up halfway through. We can see it just splits off to the Leopard PTA and finishes at the Leopard 1. Now, for a while, I've been knowing that Wargaming will obviously add German lights at some point. I mean, it's pretty obvious. We already have every other major nation's light tanks. You might say, okay, what about Europe? Well, Europe doesn't really have light tanks. I mean, even if you make your way, for example, over to World of Tanks PC and take a look at the tech tree, we can see that Poland has no light tanks. We can see that the Swedish line has no light tanks. Italy has no light tanks. And the only line that has light tanks are Czech tanks, and that is the new Tesac that was added into the game very recently. And it's an autocannon, essentially. So, for the most part, there are no light tanks on the European nation, even on World of Tanks PC, up until recently. But Germany has had a light tank for quite a while. And that is the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen, which is a tier 10 German light. And this vehicle is confirmed going to be the next line added into the game. And even if it isn't, I can tell you that it is coming into the game within the end of 2025. The Rheinmetall Panzerwagen is actually the worst performing tank on PC. But before you say, oh, well, it's going to suck in Blitz, you have to remember that a tank is only as good as its balancing. So if Wargaming balances this tank really well on Blitz, then it will be fine. It's just entirely dependent on that. And to be honest, this is a really good tank on PC as well. It's just that people don't play it very well. It's essentially a tier 10 RU251. We can get a brief overview of its statistics, and I actually think that it will give us a good insight to how this vehicle will play in Blitz. So let's actually see. This is, by the way, unequipped. So we have no food on this tank, which obviously gives you a big ol' boost to your crew skills, a 10% bonus. I also don't have any equipment or directives, which some of you might know or might not be aware of on PC. But let's actually take a look at just kind of the base stats here with just food. So we have 320 damage per shot, which is pretty low, but that'll be probably similar to what it is in Blitz. I mean, maybe Wargaming will give it 340 and a similar alpha to that of the E50M. I can't imagine they'll give it 360 like the Leopard, because we already have the WZ-132-1, which features 360 alpha. So most likely this is going to be a lower damage per shot light tank. The gun depression is actually really nice. It's 10 degrees. You can see that the entire breech of the gun moves up and down, just like the Lech Panzer 70, which is already in Blitz. We have overall pretty solid DPM, 2,673. That means if you were running a rammer, for example, you could get over 3,000 DPM on this tank on PC, which is pretty dang impressive. Mobility-wise, it's a light tank, so 75 km per hour top speed, 25 reverse. This is actually one of the fastest light tanks on PC for base top speed. And that's quite nice, and I think in Blitz we can expect probably around a 65 to 70 km per hour top speed as well. Honestly, light tanks in Blitz aren't that fast compared to PC. There are vehicles like the EBR, obviously, which can obtain top speeds over 100 km per hour. But in Blitz, the fastest tanks you'll find are upwards of 72 to 75 kilometers per hour. Not nearly as fast. The only way you're actually getting faster is with game modes. Grinding to the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen is going to be super simple. As we can see, there are literally 2 missing slots on the Blitz tree, right below the Leopard and the Leopard PTA. So because of that, Wargaming is very clearly going to add 2 new tanks, a tier 9 and tier 10, and that's going to be the simple grind. Now what's interesting on World of Tanks PC is that the RU-251 is actually a tier 9 light tank. You see, years ago, it used to be a tier 8, same for the T-49 and all the other tier 8 lights and blitz. But Wargaming decided to bump them up from tier 8 to tier 9. They actually shoved the whole lineup one tier and then added new lower tier lights. And in Blitz, that's obviously not going to happen. Wargaming's not going to make the RU-251, T-49, T-54 lightweight, all tier 9s at once. So more realistically, what we can expect here is that probably the Hawk 12, which is the tier 8 on the PC line, will be the tier 9 in Blitz. The Hawk 12 is literally just a tier 8 SP1C. I mean, look at it. It looks like a bigger, longer SP1C. And that's literally all it is. The gun is nothing spectacular. Again, though, this is a tier 8, for example. Usually, when it comes to tier 9 lights in Blitz, they are just toned down versions of the tier 10. And we can see that for every line. The Object 84 has a very similar gun to the T100LT, 2600 DPM, 310 damage per shot, and the exact same tracer shell mechanic. And if you take a look at the British lights, like the Vickers CR, it features the same style of damage per shot. It has Hesh, which does the same 380 damage. Slightly different because Wargaming just massively changed the Vickers light, but still very similar. Same for the 92E1, featuring literally the exact same alpha damage, penetration, and everything to the Sheridan. So we can expect that the tier 9 German light tank is going to feature the same, if not a little bit worse, gun as the tier 10 in terms of DPM, accuracy, and probably penetration. So probably pretty similar. I do have a feeling that Wargaming is going to add some sort of special mechanic to the line to make it a little unique. We've already seen light tanks being the forefront of new ideas. The WZ-132-1 was the first light tank to get adaptive concealment, and the first tank in the game to get adaptive concealment, which allows your vehicle to become unspotted in 7 seconds rather than 10, and it allows you to see who spotted you, which we can see on this picture right here. And not only that, but the T100LT featured the first mechanic in the game being tracer shells. So tracer shells allow you to keep a opponent spotted for 20 seconds rather than the standard 10, which is still one of the most busted abilities in the game. It's so stupid. So because of that, I think that the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen will get some sort of special ability. I don't know what it will be. It might just be adaptive concealment, and Wargaming will keep it pretty boring. But I guess we'll find out, because I do think Wargaming knows the line is kind of mediocre in general in terms of excitement. It's basically a light tank version of the Leopard 1. As I said, a tier 8 RE-251 and 10. So I think a lot of people, especially not so experienced players, aren't going to care too much about the line, and they're going to be more focused on other light tanks. So because of that, Wargaming's really going to have to put a lot of effort into this line if they want newer players to do well in it and grind it. So I have a feeling that this tank is going to have some special mechanic or something about it that makes it unique compared to the rest of the lights, or Wargaming wouldn't put it in the game. But obviously, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. All I wanted to do was let you know that the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen is confirmed to be the next line coming into the game, which is pretty exciting news. I'm quite excited for the tank. This is a vehicle I've been looking up to because I've always wanted a German light tank. We have every other nation, but we don't have Germany. So yeah, and by the way, if you were asking what about Japan, Japan also does not have light tanks on PC, the only medium being the STB-1. So really, this is the only light tank that we are missing now in Blitz, apart from, I guess, the Tessac, but that tank's probably not going to come in for years, and save for the EBR-105. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.